Today, we are having a business conversation with Abe Navarro from Trease, a brand new retailer coming to Bob Cajun. I'm Brian Rump,
And I'm Matt Garrity of Matty G Digital.
and this is the Kawartha Small Business Podcast. We have business conversations for the Kawartha commute. All right, welcome, Abe. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, guys. Super excited to be doing this. And yeah, I think it's going to be a great chat and a great time.
Yeah, we're really excited as well. You're a longtime listener who reached out to us, as we suggest in the our show notes and in our end of our podcast, to come on the show. And we've had some conversations before this, and we're really excited to be talking to you about your new business. So tell us a bit about you and your business and what you're bringing to Bob Cajun.
Well, a little bit about me. So, on a personal level, I'm a father of four. My hobbies include gardening. I love to garden. I'm actually thinking about joining the Horticultural Society here in Bob Cajun. I taking a break just because of other stuff that happened in my life, but I'm a BJJ and I love doing BJJ. I just haven't had the time. And for anyone asking, thinking, well, what is BJJ? It's Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. I'm currently on a 7-year blue belt plan. So anyone that does BJJ knows will laugh and be like, oh, he's one of those blue belts. But that's a little bit about me personally. Professionally, I come from a retail background. I've spent 24 years in retail. I started off at HBC in the Zeller's warehouse as a picker. And then I sold shoes all through high school and through university as a sales associate. And my summer jobs were with the HBC were doing IT. So I did a bit of tech support. When I left university, I started DJing and was throwing parties, and I needed money for records. So my mom ended up helping me get a job back at the Bay doing loss prevention. Loss prevention is like an undercover store detective. It was crazy. By the third day, I loved it. Spent 15 years doing that, and with HBC, YM, Nordstrom, and TJX Canada. I recently left TJX Canada, where I was an internal investigator. So I was responsible. I had 3 districts, just over 30 stores, and I was responsible for investigating any internal dishonesty within those districts. But I was part of the larger regional investigation team. So from time to time, I would help support, or we'd work together on other investigations that had to deal with organized retail crime, especially if there was a link between the employee and an organized retail crime group. My passion with cannabis started approximately when I was a teenager. It was kind of like that half-baked moment when, like, I don't know if anyone's watched it with Dave Chappelle. He smokes it. He's like, Mary Jane. And I loved it. I loved it. And I was like, what? Where have you been all my life? And I don't remember if you remember those 80s like commercials. This is your brain on drugs. And they
Oh, yeah.
drop the egg in the frying pan. I'm like, God damn it. My brain on drugs. I love it. Marijuana. But all jokes aside, it was just yeah. I wasn't really into alcohol. Like most people were drinking and sneaking booze out of their parents' house at that age. Just really wasn't my thing. And yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it became a passion, and something that I came up. It's just been a regular part of my life. I've advocated for it, and you know for a long time, I was criticized for thinking that it'd be legal, and for my pot smoking, everyone told me that, oh, you're going to be a loser, and you're not going to do anything, and you're going to be that typical stoner. And I tried really hard to show people that I wasn't. I went to university, finished my degree, I did a double major, started working, moved up the ranks really really quickly. Developed a pretty good career. Like if I wasn't doing this, I'd still be doing loss prevention and investigations, and something I still love, but I love this more. And yeah, when the opportunity arose, when they got rid of the lottery system, the beginning of 2020, I tapped my mom, my dad, my sister, and my brother-in-law, my cousin, and one of my best friends, and we started Trees. The name Trees originated back again in high school. My partner is one of my best friends, and we used to skip a lot of class, and we used to be like, "Yo, let's go blaze those trees." right? So it was just slang, right, for weed. So when we were starting this, right, we were like, okay, what do we want to name our company? And I suggested Trees, and he was like, yeah, we got to do it, but we got to do a play on words. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? He's like, we should incorporate ease into Trees, and so that's become a big part of our marketing and branding. We've realized that it's something that you have to kind of slowly introduce into people's vernaculars, right? So that they get used to saying that. So keep it treesy was something that we slowly started to develop, and now it's become really our tagline, or even come take a breather. Love the keep it treesy, and it's funny. People will see me, they're like, "Oh, keep it treesy, Abe." I'm like, yes, the marketing's working, right? The marketing's working, and then the other thing about our business is that we're really looking to differentiate ourselves and break that mold of sterility and design, and provide a really authentic experience for our customers, where it's a tourist destination. And we've really realized that we're not just a dispensary, we're a brand, and our brand is for the cannabis enthusiast that enjoys the outdoors and enjoys being active.
Yeah, so you're opening just the background of the business for listeners. So Trees is the name of the business, new cannabis retailer in Bob Cajun. Tell us a little bit about where your location is,
Sure.
and maybe the type of experience that you're trying to have. You've told us some pretty cool things about your atmosphere. So yeah, tell us about that.
So yeah, we're located in Bob Cajun, pretty much at the corner of King and Bolton. So it's right downtown. We're right beside the Bob Cajun Bakery and Granny Bird Wool Shops, both excellent neighbors, I should say, and love having them. They've been super supportive. Um, the past and present owner is of the Bob Cajun Bakery as well. We're right beside, so we're at 7 King Street East. We're right beside, right by the liquor store and the beer store, which is ideal. We're not too far from the Value Mart or the Foodland. Um, and we're really hoping to be the click and collect stop for cottagers, right? Because when they come into town to pick stuff up, they can just pre-order on our website, do the whole e-commerce thing, and pick it up. Now, our vibe and our experience is again so different. We didn't want to be that sterile shop environment. So, the exterior of our store looks like a cottage. Like, when you look outside, you wouldn't think it's a cannabis dispensary. You're like, what is this place? Because it doesn't look like a store, it looks like a cottage. And we've done some really cool things with the doors. Um, so the front door is actually wrapped, and it looks like a cottage screen door that's kind of just open, like slightly ajar. And where it's ajar, you can see the wallpaper of what would be in the interior. Now, the cool thing is we've really paid attention to detail. So when you actually open the door, the wallpaper that's on the front of the door is a wallpaper that you're walking into the vestibule. As you walk into the vestibule, it's like you're in an old time cottage. We have some really cool photos. I don't want to give too much away because it's part of the experience. While you're waiting to be let in, you can look. I will say this: we have a picture of downtown Bob Cajun, I think from like the 70s, maybe late 60s. So we're really paying a homage to, yeah, cottage country, right? Like you walk in and it's like your grandma's old cottage, right? Like with the stucco ceilings, the horribly tacky wallpaper that's so tacky, it's good, right? Now, when you walk in, it's like you're walking into the outside. So, we have nice forest mural wallpaper. We've mounted logs up on the walls. We have a grass area, where it's astroturf. It feels like actual grass. And again, it's not as sterile. It's more of an organic, genuine experience. So for us, it was what I like about the cottage and what I like about being up here in the Kawarthas. So the idea is you walk in, it's like you're walking out of someone's cottage into a grassy area, and then you're walking towards a lake. So as you're walking towards a lake, we have two dock display tables with boats as our display cabinets. And as you walk past those, you reach our cash desk, and then you're at the lake. So the back wall where the pass through window is a giant mural of a lake. And on either side of the register, we have a firewood wall that I've built myself, which I was like I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, but I did it, and it looks amazing, right? And again, playing to the brand, like everything that we had built is custom handmade. So the docks, sorry, are all handmade. We have a live edge counter that was handmade by an excellent dude by the up here, just great. And um, he did all of our woodwork, and it just looks amazing. And I'm very happy. We've actually really met a large group of contractors and people to work with in the future that just been amazing. Um, but again, the vibe, and then we have a chalkboard menu, so we're not doing any digital displays. Everything's going to be very organic, play to kind of the feel of the area. Um, I just even for me, I don't like those digital menus. Like you look at them, they're always scrolling. It's hard to get information. Whereas you have it all there, and if it's well done, it's welcoming and it's inviting and it's organic and yeah, I just didn't want to have such I don't want to say like it's just sterile, right? Like it just didn't have a feeling or an experience there. So when customers come in, I don't want them to think, oh, I'm in a cannabis shop, like or like this is a cannabis store. This is my favorite cannabis store. I want them to say, hey, this is my favorite store. Like when I come in here, I'm having an experience. I'm getting great customer service. The staff here knows me. I can come in even not to just buy pot, just to talk to my favorite bud tender or to my staff. Or I need hand. So we're going to be carrying some hand cream. So I need some beauty products. You know what? They have some awesome hemp based beauty products that I can't get anywhere else. It's specialized. Let me go here. Or you know what? I saw we're getting custom blankets made. So hand woven on a loom custom blankets. Like, how cool would it be to be like, I really want something that's artisan, that's, that I can have by the fire. You know what? Let me go to Trees to pick up this awesome blanket. And, great if they want to buy cannabis, but if they don't, there's still something there for everyone, right? So,
Yeah, that's really cool. And I was wondering with the term dispensary if that kind of lends itself to being sterile. And like, I don't really love that word. And maybe that's like a regulated word or a word that's maybe just like been grandfathered in. I've been in one of the retailers recently, and it was like you said, extremely sterile, extremely institutional. It felt like this big cavernous museum, and there's no personality to it whatsoever. I've never been in another retailer before, so I was like, this is just what this is like. So it's interesting to hear you saying like what you're trying to achieve is actually quite unique for the industry.
yeah. Well, it's just, and I think it doesn't matter what you do, right? You need to bring some soul and some passion into everything you do, right? Like if you put love and care into anything, people can sense that and feel that, and there's an appreciation for that. Like you walk into something, or perfect example, right? If you do something thoughtful for someone, you know, they'll remember that. And it doesn't have to be something big, it can be something small. And I think the same thing applies for, a store environment or a business. You need to be thoughtful and considerate of your customers. Like, what is it that you're putting out there for them to consume? And how are you curating that experience so that they're enjoying it and they feel connected to it, right? Like, any successful brand has a following and has something cultural or something behind it, right? And it doesn't even have to be like, something modern. Like let's talk about Freemasons, right? Freemasons have a secret handshake that they've had for years, and it's carried on and it's part of a brand, right? You can take that same idea and apply it to branding for a store or for anything else. You need to find things to bring in to make inclusive and to make it a great experience.
And that's great. Tell us a little bit about what I think is fascinating, and some of our conversations before is about your target customers, or maybe some of your groups of customers who you're looking to sell to, and maybe what might surprise some of our listeners as to who those customers are.
Absolutely. So I'm a big fan of using IG for business and Facebook. Social media, again, I think we've talked about this. If you're not using social media for your business, you need to be, because it provides key insights into everything that you're doing, right? Like, so, and so you'll see me post a lot of stories. The reason I prefer stories over posts is because I get real time data on the insights of who's following me, how they're engaging, and then I constantly look at the insights on my page. Now I was surprised and taken back, but then it really made sense. Our largest following are women. So 60% of our followers on social media are women between the ages of 25 to 44. And that is in retail, like that is your dream demographic. And I think why our brand plays so well into that is because it isn't a sterile environment. We're providing an experience. We're doing something different. And I just think, just as a whole, not just for women, but for men and everyone involved, you much rather go to a store where it's safe, you know what you're getting, you know it's being tested, and you're not meeting some dude in a back alley or having some sketchy delivery service come to your house, right? Or you have that buddy that you've been buying weed for from forever, and be like, "I'll be there at 4:30," but really shows up at 6, right? You know what I mean? Like it's just all these little experiences that I think that differentiate us. So that was a big thing for me. Now, the other thing about our demographics is a third of them are from Toronto, and another third are from Bob Cajun, and the rest are from the surrounding areas. So we've really been able to capture some of these, people that travel up here, and that's great because what we want to do is have them click and collect and be that stop, that destination for when they come in here into cottage country to stop to get their stuff. For example, when I would cottage up here, I live up here now, but I would always stop at my favorite bait and tackle shop to get all my stuff to fish with, right? The same grocery store, the same liquor store. If I can do that for cannabis, for Bob Cajun, and for the larger Kawartha areas, you know what? Come, have your order placed. You'll meet your favorite bud tender. They'll be there to dispense your order. It just goes a long way, right? And providing that experience. Now, the other thing that we've done recently is I've signed up with Spring Big, Bud Tender. So we'll be offering customer satisfaction surveys. Retail 101. Every retailer does it, and it provides great metrics and data. And we're going to be doing text messaging marketing as well, so that when if you sign up for us, we track you as a customer. We'll be able to send you information about sales, uh, you know, what new product we have in the store. So I think that's really going to help us drive our business.
That's neat. Tell us a bit about just some of your different product lines. I've been surprised because I think as we talked before, I wasn't quite sure if we were even going to do this meeting. I'm a square from way back. This is like a whole new world to me, a whole new niche. But I guess what's fascinating to me is just the breadth of the products you have, and then touch on the horticultural stuff as well, because that's kind of really cool. And I think that's different from maybe other of your competitors, but I don't really know.
So we're really well. So I'll touch a little bit on my strategy here for this coming into the spring. So again, I didn't do this to make, like, I want to make money, obviously, and I want it to be successful, but I love cannabis, and anyone that knows me will be able to put their hand over their heart and be like, yeah, no, that dude really loves his weed, right? like so and that's important, right? So I have a passion for this. So I want the same, and I know, being a cannabis enthusiast, that, to say that, it's because you love the product. And now that it's legal to grow, everyone's so interested in it, right? And it's funny, from all ages, from all demographics. And I really, in the Kawarthas, again, it's a rural community. There's a lot of farming, and you talk to people have been growing pot up here for years and years, right, on their back lots, or some farmers, a small patch of their field. So what's coming to market is there's going to be a lot of legacy seeds. And what I mean by legacy is, like, gray market or old stuff that, you could only get on the unregulated market, that are going to be released and will be able to sell. So I really want to focus on grow season up here, and, really, really touch on, growing and support the growers up here. So we want to be carrying nutrients, carrying seeds, and, I showed you guys this earlier in our previous conversations, but I have a book by Jorge Cervantes. anyone that's grown has his marijuana horticultural indoor outdoor guidebook. It's a staple up there with Ed Rosenthal, and I have it in store here for my staff to be able to help people that are growing, new to growing, seasoned growers that can come in and tap the knowledge that I've extracted from this book. So I have it, I have notes in it and everything like that. And the idea is I want, again, to be a community hub. So growers, old growers, new growers can come in and we can share ideas and thoughts, and I can help them with their grows and help them service it. I myself have my ACMPR. I grow myself. Been doing it I've been growing my four for the last few years. I just received my ACMPR late last year, and I've really stepped up my garden. I myself prefer to grow hydroponically, so I grow. My medium of growing is deep water culture, and what that is I grow in buckets, and essentially I aerate the buckets by putting in air stone. I mix my nutrients, and I fill the bucket up to what's called a net pot. I put hydrogen clay pellets in there, and the roots eventually grow down and they grow into the water. And as the water evaporates, it creates a 100% humidity zone where the aerated water that bubbles up actually, as it bubbles, it creates mist and it feeds the roots in that humidity zone, and it just increases, decreases your vegetative time right before you flip over into flowers. So typically, when you are growing, from seed, it takes 3 to 5 weeks for the plant to reach maturity. At around 5 weeks, you can tell its gender, so if it's male or female, and then at that point, you're ready to flower. And then but it again, the hydroponic process can really cut down on your veg time. So instead of a full 5 weeks, within 3 to 4 weeks the plants mature typically. And then again, with flowering, you're just controlling what the plant's getting, so you can really bulk up your plants and just get incredible yields and just taste and flavor and smell. So that's just a little bit about my horticultural background. I like that. I don't know if I answered the second part of that question. I kind of,
Yeah, that was really good. And I find that fascinating. As you know, people are interested in that, right?
yeah,
And so it's
absolutely.
not just, I think showing up for, your Friday night weed or whatever, but you have like, you know that whole experience, different, you probably get people might love horticulture and might are growing it and they might not even use it, but it's like something new and neat to grow and experiment with. um, yeah, I love you thinking about joining the horticultural society, which is pretty cool as
Yeah.
well.
Well, I love to garden. So like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no,
I
sorry.
was,
I was going to jump in with a different question, but the thing I was honestly most interested in this conversation and in general is honestly like the stigma of all of this still, and the cannabis like stigma, right? And like how you're going to go about marketing and selling a stigma to me is fascinating and very interesting. And like, how do you get in front of that target market that you mentioned, like the moms that maybe have that stigma where they're like, I don't want to walk into a pot shop or whatever. And like, how do you get them up off the couch, not ordering online from the government site or whatever, and like walking into your store? Just in general, talk to me about like, because I'm fascinated by it. The idea of like, how do you market and sell something that has a stigma behind it?
So a lot of it is, I've realized I've become the face of the brand. So it's about me going
Yeah.
out there and being part of the community, right? And talking to people, being out there with my family and with my kids, or, just being positive and getting to know people, right? And, it's funny once you build those relationships. Remember, so again, this is a cultural value from TJX, but that I've taken and that I hold really dear, and that, it's so true across all businesses. Relationships are the glue and grease of business. You need to build relationships with people, and you always need to know your audience, right? So, you know, knowing that, like someone that has a stigma about it, whether it be a mom at home or someone that, was just raised with the idea that it's wrong, it's about really first and foremost me being the face of the business, showing that one, you know, I have integrity, right? and that I'm honest and that I'm transparent and that I carry those values, my personal values, into my business, right? And that speaks loudly. And the other thing is, again, it comes down to providing an experience, right? It doesn't matter the gender, the age. When people shop, they want a good experience, right? Like, think about when you've been to a store or been somewhere and you've had a good shopping experience. You leave there and you're like, that was great. That person was awesome. I got to go back there to get that shirt again. Or, I just need to stop by to see that salesperson because they were so great. So, and again, it's going back to my time at Nordstrom and TJX, and I saw like how these experiences were created and these brands were created to give customers that experience. So, like, TJX or Winners, HomeSense, Marshall, it's about the thrill of the find, right?
Mm.
Nordstrom's is about that personalized shopping experience, right? HBC, Canadiana, right? Like the history, right? Your HBC blankets. And, so starting this business, and as we grew, we really realized like everyone's selling weed, right? So what are we doing that's different? We
Yeah.
realized shortly that, we're selling people time to add to the ritual of consuming cannabis. So anyone that consumes cannabis has a ritual behind it. I think we touched on this before, but for me, I love to get up early. I love to have a tea, and I'll spend I'll wake up. So today I got up a little later and I didn't get to partake in my ritual. But let's say I normally start work at 11, right? I'll wake up at around 6:15, make my tea and smoke my joint and watch some TV or read the paper, and that's my ritual. So we want to add to that, and what we realize is what we're really selling is time and experience. Having people come in, have that time to add to the ritual and add an experience to it. And so that's how we've kind of tailored and curated the experience. We've really tried to pay attention to detail, like the stuff with the doors and the wallpaper and the lake mural, and really tried to include people's senses into it. So, when you come in there, it should activate all your senses except smell. And the only reason we didn't do that is, I realize some people have, scent allergies or whatever else, but, the sights, the sounds, the touch, everything is included in that to give you that experience. And then the biggest part though was finding the right team. I you know, I can teach. I'm a firm believer, and this always bothered me about hiring. People would look at resumes and they would just automatically disqualify someone based on what they've seen and without talking, like using an algorithm or whatever else. And to me, that's crazy. Like, you can look at someone's resume, but it doesn't tell you who they are, how they fit, right? So when I was hiring, I made sure to hire people that fit my values and my culture. We had our first team building event yesterday, and I couldn't have been happier. My team's amazing. They all got along with each other. They all vibe. They all fit what we had envisioned. And I know, again, and they're all going to be great brand ambassadors. They already are. They're posting stuff on their social media. They're talking about it to towns, friends, families. So yeah, it's been kind of our strategy there.
Yeah, that's really cool. You talk about the great team. Touch on a bit the other interesting thing, and I guess first a comment. What I love about this conversation in your business is you are really like all the business fundamentals. There's just so much you're putting together and you really understand, which is awesome. Um, Tell us about some of the regulations you face, because I think again with your team they can't just be jokers, or they can't be the guy who used to deliver in the parking lot.
Right.
Like now you got a lot of rules to follow, right? This isn't goof off central here, right? Like these bud tenders got to follow some checklists and stuff.
Well, yeah, and it is, and it's good that the government has. It's no, it's true though, right? No, and that's the thing, right? I don't think people realize it now that we're in the legal market. We 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 need we we need to have people that really can represent the brand, and there's a lot of regulation about it. So as an employee, everyone needs to have a criminal background check done prior to hiring, and they have to complete CanCell. So the Cancel is a government course, and it's around a 4 hour course. There's several modules, and then you have to pass. You only have 2 attempts to pass it, and if you don't pass in 2 attempts, you have to repurchase a course and redo it.
Wow.
It's around $70. It's similar to SmartServe, but just compliance based. The whole process was crazy, and it's very invasive. So anyone thinking about getting into this, you need to make sure you have a clean background and be ready because um, everything about anything that you've done will be closely investigated and looked at under a microscope. You could even to the point be interviewed by the AGCO or the OPP or someone else, to make sure that you're not, they want to make sure that people coming into this are doing this with honesty and integrity, and that they're not going to contribute to organized retail crime or and maintain the standards that have been set out by the registrar. So for us, right from the get go, we had to submit all our financials. We had to show where all the money was coming from, a deep dive forensic accounting. We had to submit. They asked us about our history. We had to submit any criminal or any provincial offenses that we've had, right down to speeding tickets. So my one friend forgot he had a speeding ticket from 3 years ago, and they called him out on it. Like, are you sure you're not missing something? He's like, yeah, it's crazy. But again, it goes to honesty, integrity. Now it comes back to like me and my investigative background, right? I understand that because, right, like they're giving us an opportunity to sell a controlled substance, really, that you know if you have a good business model and you do it right, there's no reason that you should ever go out of business, right? It's no different than selling tobacco or alcohol, right? So they want to make sure that the right people are in place, that they're going to be operating at a higher standard. Ideally, what I see it as is they want to make sure they're giving licenses to people that are going to be beyond reproach, that will always not only meet the standard but go above and beyond. And that's what I try to do because I just realize how important it is. And then those standards are just the minimum, right? Going above and beyond, right? It's the optics around it, right? Like people, not only your regulatory body, your compliance that takes care of the compliance, but the community will know that you know you've done something differently. So yeah, we got called out on speeding tickets, and then after that, that was just for our retail operator's license. So the licensing process, you have to apply for your operator's license. And then once you have a store, you need a store authorization, right? A retail store authorization. And that is getting your store ready and compliant up to what the standards need to be to open a store. And then the person managing your store, right, needs to be a cannabis retail manager. Has to have a license as well. So there's 3 sets of licenses you need to apply for. The retail operator's license we received in July of last year, and I just received my final authorization on my retail store authorization on Monday, March the 23rd. I received my cannabis manager's license months ago because I'm organized and I'm anxious about stuff like that. And I was like, I can't let this go. I need to get this done right away, right away, so that we're ready to go. But yeah, I mean, a lot of hoops, and through each of those processes, like you're under a microscope. So and you're being you're being looked at. So for our RSA, we had to had 2 inspections: a pre-inspection where they come in and make sure that we're meeting all our standards, like have all the right security equipment, alarm intrusion system, our files are done properly, so they'll audit our employee files and stuff like that. And then an inspection prior to opening to making sure that we have all the right signage up. um, and then even regulatory, the compliance piece, on a monthly basis, I have to submit uh, just a ton of information about what I've done with my inventory, if there's been inventory adjustments, like my sales data, and then there's reporting standards too, right? So again, heavily regulated. One that I looked at today, and you can find this online, is the register standards. If a minor enters the store, we have and we catch it, we have, or it gets reported to. We have 1 business day to turn around and report that up to our the AGC or the regulatory body. So it is. on top of having to do all the business stuff, right? The compliance piece is a huge part of this. And, I don't want to scare anybody away wanting to get into the business. It's doable, but, you really, really, really need to know what you're getting into and have a plan for it, right? And, you know, if you're not, time management isn't your strong suit, you need to definitely work on it before taking on a project like this because it is not for the faint of heart.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Is the Ontario government distributing it? Like, are you buying from the government or are you buying from the specific suppliers?
No, so in Ontario, Saskatchewan is one of the only provinces that you can buy directly from the licensed producers.
Mhm.
We buy everything through the OCS.
Okay.
So yeah, just like just like the consumers go to the OCS, we go to the OCS, and there's a wholesaling website that we use. I can't talk too much about it because I'm under an NDA in regards to it. But yeah, there's a whole process around it, and the OCS does control the wholesaling and within the province.
Oh, it's fascinating. So many layers to this. It's a
Yeah.
great conversation. I really like it.
Thanks.
Yeah, we're running close to the end of our Kawartha commute, though. We want to keep in our time budget and respect your time today. Any other thoughts, Matt? Do you have any questions that we haven't got to?
Not that it probably matters to you, Abe, but I've just been fascinated talking to you and getting to know you the last couple of weeks and conversations we've had. You strike me as so intelligent, very well versed in this, so well spoken. And like you said, there's so many optics around cannabis and cannabis retail. I didn't know what we were getting ourselves into conversation wise. And you've taught me so much. It's been interesting. You have all the tools to be successful. And I think it's just been great to get to know you and learn so much about this. So keep it treasy, man.
Thanks,
Yeah.
guys. And I got to say, I'm a big fan of your podcast. That's why I reached out. I love what you guys are doing, and keep it up because it's great for the community. Like, it's great to have someone talking about what's going on locally, but just in the broader sense, and talking about this business 101, right? It's funny going into business. I've really realized that a lot of people get into business because they have a passion, but don't necessarily always have the tools to get them to where they want to be. So something like this, you're providing tools and these conversations that people need to have, so that they can plan and be strategic and develop a good business plan along the way. So yeah.
All right, that's awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. You can visit Trees in Bob Cajun, I believe, any day that ends with Y. The hours again are, is it 9 a.m., 10 a.m.? What time do you open in the morning?
10 a.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week.
Awesome. That's great. So thank you very much for listening. If you want to talk to us, if you have further questions, please send us an email to setitup@kawarthasmallbusinesspodcast.ca.